Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh, and we have another great episode for you today. On the show, we're going to keep you posted on the latest updates as impeachment news comes across the wire. We have now found out that Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski has signaled she is open to convicting Trump as the timing of the Senate impeachment trial remains unclear at this time. Also, Biden has dropped his stimulus plan, the American Rescue Plan as he calls it. We will also break it down in our opening politics segment, and we'll discuss some of the new revelations coming out as we know more about the Capitol attacks and the insane lapses of security that took place as people on the terrorism watch list are said to have been part of the crowd in Washington on the day of the Capitol riot, and other disturbing things that we have been hearing about things like Ayanna Pressley's desk, and try and process them all in one go. And then we do have one more final story for you, and it's all about Rick Snyder. Recently, he was charged for the crime he committed to Flint. We're going to take you to, I believe, at least Michigan, but Flint's very own Michael Moore, about what he did, reflecting on that, and why it should always be acceptable to criticize Democrats like Joe Biden, going deep into the future. Welcome in, everybody. It's Newsflash 471. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Senator Lisa Murkowski, Republican of Alaska, said on Thursday the House had acted appropriately in impeaching President Trump, signaling a possible support for convicting him at a Senate trial in a statement that called his actions unlawful and said that they warranted consequences. So this is like kind of an interesting situation here, because this is definitely nowhere near the votes that they're going to need to probably get the conviction. If you just got Lisa Murkowski and you come off a House trial where you only really get 10 Republicans to flip, and you're supposed to get 17 Republicans to flip on the president in the Senate for conviction, it's going to be very, very tough. And it's definitely unlikely, no matter what you look at it, like the removal of the Senate happening, even if McConnell does decide to do the trial somehow, like an hour before the inauguration, which is like literally what they have. They're not going to be back in the Senate until the 19th. So as of now, but it's very, very unlikely how they're going to handle this. And from what we have seen, it looks like Mitch McConnell has begun to waver personally, because this is what we see. What we are seeing right now is a two-sided fracture within the Republican Party, and people who know the Republican Party well are Republicans themselves are very, very worried about what is going to happen in their party, because it is splintering. And some of the populist Republicans, there's one person in particular who I'm thinking of who kind of comes at it from a funny way on the Hill. It's like he's a Republican who I very much like. I think he's probably the most honest right-wing figure that I know. And, of course, obviously, don't disagree with. I do disagree with him in a fair amount of things. He does have a really kind of, I think, naive perspective and sometimes about the Republican Party. But he does, like, I do take his word for things that I would know about in the Republic. Like, that's not my area of expertise. Like, inner Republican politics and analysis of the right, I kind of look to Sagar and Jetty on the Hill and Rising for that. And he had a very, very, this was the take here, and it was very, very interesting, because there is a two-sided split, and neither of them are very appealing. Like, you have, like, for him, who he pretty much considers himself I guess you could say, like, a populist, and he does have some kind of interesting structural leftist critiques of the system. I would say they're leftist. He would say that they're not necessarily leftist. I'd say he's definitely more kind of an economic economic left-winger, and a culturally more of a right-winger, which is something that you really don't see. There's nobody elected in the Republican Party, I would say right now, that is in any kind of prominent national state that I have heard of that accurately fits that bill. Because if you think Josh Hawley is going to bring class politics back into the Republican Party, or back into politics in general, like, that is the most insane, diluted, like, sheep all over your eyes thing I have ever heard. So there is this split. There is this deep split on against the Republican Party right now, because on one side you have, again, the people who are completely detached to reality, and I mean, they're not really even invested in a structural critique of the system. You get people like the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Lauren Boeberts of the world, all these people who are really in politics as a whole just to serve Trump and the Trump agenda, which really, as far as it is concretely, is pretty much own the libs and stoke resentment and rage at everything that's not part of like the Republican cultural that doesn't line up with like the Republican cultural signifiers, like the class politics element, or like the tiptoeing around possibly being some kind of anti-war or possibly like sometimes like shutting down the military industrial complex. Like that stuff is really a sideshow. Like all the kind of like the things about trade, that was certainly a big part of it, but it was not why people in large part, it was not why people supported him. It was in large part because of those cultural buttons being pushed. And if you look at some of the Trump supporters, especially look at the people who are motivated enough to go into the Capitol, they are not people whose lives have been greatly altered by NAFTA and TPP. Like the biggest like deciding culture, like not material thing that these people care about in terms of politics is what kind of chain restaurants are in their town. Like that is the animating factor as far as their daily lives go in politics. So those are the type of people. That's really where the base of the Republican Party is. That's one side. And the other side, you have people like Mitch McConnell, people like Liz Cheney, the people just like, I want him out. I want to go back to the Republican Party the way it was before, when we were in charge and we were keeping corporations happy. We're keeping the DOD happy. We're expanding the national security state, and we're giving tax cuts to the rich. And we didn't really have to worry about crazy racists. We could only kind of be racist subtly to just help kind of keep our base going. And at the end, at the 2012 election, at the point of the 2012 election, and Mitch McConnell was a big part in like leading this turn away. There was a conscious decision made, not quite yet, to go appeal to some minorities who are probably taking over the country, are really occupying more. I shouldn't say taking over. That's the wrong word. I'm not trying to do a great replacement theory here, but like they are occupying more and more of obviously a demographic space in the country. And now we are seeing that, I mean, maybe even with Trump, that doesn't matter anymore, but that's the whole thing. But what we've seen them do is go further right, and really often to the point of reality, like they don't want to do that. Mitch McConnell, Liz Cheney, those people, and the same people who are wavering on Trump and the impeachment, and it's definitely more than I think that we know publicly. There's only a select few who are actually willing to and really politically have made the calculation that they're going to come out publicly, like that guy from South Carolina, I forget his name. He's conservative, so much so that like people were calling his office because if he voted for impeachment in the House, and people were calling his office like, "Dude, did you make a mistake?" There are people like that. There are people. I would be willing to bet. I feel confident in saying that there are people like that who aren't really going to come out one way or another and say this and take a brave bold stand, because it's going to be the end of their political careers. They're going to stay in line with the Republican Party and support impeachment. Support stopping impeachment. But they want to go back to the way things were normally. And then, of course, you have like the real hogs, the true believers, the Lauren Boeberts, the Matt Gaetzes of the world. There's a lot of people like that, and those are the people who the Republican base cares about. Make no mistake about it. So when you see all these people, when they're having these political consequences, the real consequences are from corporate America. And the question now is, which base of the Republican Party do they really want to keep happy? The corporations who really fund it, or the electoral base, the hogs, the swine, the people out there storming the Capitol, and the people there who kind of agree with it? That is the cleavage of the Republican Party right now. And to any sort of populist, that doesn't look good any way you slice it, because neither of those camps are very appealing to someone like Steger and At least the politics he claims to believe there. So, yeah, that is kind of the very interesting dynamic here that we continue to see. on Mitch McConnell. So Mitch McConnell indicated to his colleagues he was unsure, he was undecided about whether to convict Trump, and privately told advisors he approved of the impeachment drive and believed it could help the party purge Trump and go back to pleasing corporations. And finally, after 10 straight solid years of enabling under the Obama administration, encouraging the worst instincts and really keeping it to a head under Trump. Really all but since 2009. So we got what now? 12 straight years of complete enabling. And what do we get? The natural outcome, and hopefully the pinnacle, but probably not the pinnacle of the craziness, was the Capitol storming. And what the Republicans are going to do, they've let the Frankenstein monster go on for too long. The Democrats, all they do is slap down their left flank. All they do is tell their base to shut up and fall in line. The Republican Party does the opposite. For 10 years straight, they've been doing the exact opposite, and now it's gotten too far. And on the other side, you have others like Lindsey Graham, who are pushing back hard against conviction, warning it would harm the party and the country, as federal authorities cautioned about continued violent threats from pro-Trump extremists, with Mitch McConnell sending mixed signals about where he would come down. Republican strategists and senior aides on Capitol Hill believed he could ultimately swing the result one way or another. If all senators voted, it would take 17 Republicans joining all Democrats to convict Mr. Trump. If they did, it would take a vote only by a simple majority of senators to disqualify Trump from ever holding office again. So that's how it'll play out there. New York Times' Nicholas Fandos reporting that. So interesting stuff here. We are also looking today at Biden's $1.9 trillion economic rescue package. Let's go and hear what he has to say about it. This is again
during this pandemic.
He's in his office of the president-elect
room.
Through
no fault of their own, have lost the dignity and respect that comes with a job and a paycheck. Millions of Americans never thought they'd be out of work. Many of them never even envisioned the idea, are facing eviction, waiting for hours in their cars to feed their families as they drive up to a food bank. A growing chorus of top economists agree that the moment of crisis, in this moment of crisis, with interest rates at historic lows, we cannot afford inaction. Our rescue plan also includes immediate relief to Americans hardest hit and most in need. We will finish the job of getting a total of $2,000 in cash relief to people who need it the most. The $600 already appropriated is simply not enough. 1 in 7 households in America, more than 1 in 5 Black and Latino households in America, report they don't have enough food to eat. So we're going to extend emergency nutritional assistance for 43 million children and their families enrolled in the SNAP program through the rest of this year. To the millions of you just looking for a fighting chance in this economy, I promise you, we will not forget you. We understand what you're going through. We will never, ever give up.
Yeah, what we're going to do there right now is skip past the mainstream media coverage that you would really get here, which was, oh, isn't it so nice to have a president who actually speaks words again and actually can say something comforting? Yeah, we're just going to skip past that for your edification here, because I don't personally think you need to hear that. I think what we need to do is we need to actually analyze what's in this plan, because, yeah, bullshit can be shoved up your ass by politicians 6 ways to Sunday, and it won't help you. Is this going to help you? I don't know. Let's break it down. All right, so as the New York Times reports here, President-elect Joseph R. Biden Jr. on Thursday proposed a $1.9 trillion rescue package to combat the economic downturn and the COVID-19 crisis, outlining the sweeping aid that Democrats have demanded for months and signaling the shift of federal government's pandemic response as Biden prepares to take office next week. And again, this goes without saying to anybody with a functioning brain, it will be nice. It will be nice to have it will be nice to have someone in there who can actually maybe, like, of course, Biden is not known for his managerial competence and efficiency, but Ron Klain is, and what he can do there is get out that vaccine. So that is something to be hopeful for, but it's also something here on Newsflash